In Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead, Poe uses poetic elements to express the mysteriousness of death to the living to reflect on hope versus hopelessness.
In the first stanza, the narrator discusses the mystery of life. Through this stanza, the mystery of life is unknown, and how nobody knows where you will go or what will happen to you when you die. The last two lines create an image of spirits overshadowing the speaker. The spirits are always around the narrator, and it gives off a mood of enclosure. The enclosure that the narrator is in reflects Gothic elements. Thy soul shall find itself alone, which shows how the narrator feels helpless against his torturer. The first stanza sets up the poem's setting, appropriately, in which the speaker is reflecting on a lost person when stating the line, "Mid dark thoughts of the grey tombstone." The narrator has lost a loved one, which is represented by the tombstone, and the mid-dark thoughts bring up the mood of loneliness. When these two lines are read, it creates a mood that the narrator feels afraid to live by himself. The first stanza has many examples of imagery, which helps the reader to visualize how lonely the narrator actually is. Not one of all the crowd to pry into thine hour of secrecy, be silent in that solitude. These few lines create a vivid representation as to the situation that the narrator is in right now. The repetition of loneliness gives the reader the message that the narrator feels like he is at rock bottom. The spirits of the dead who stood in life before thee are again in death around thee, and the will shall then overshadow thee, be still. Through these lines, the reader can tell that the spirits will always be with them. They are there when you are living, and they are there again when you die. However, it is still unclear as to what will happen to you when you die or where you will go. The final line in the stanza also talks about how the setting is within impenetrable walls that heighten the walls of isolation that the victim feels. The shadows are surrounding the narrator, and they are also making the narrator feel an immense amount of pain because he is so alone now.
The second stanza discusses the theme of mysteriousness through the imagery and personification of the night and the stars. The stars, as they are in the poem, put an image in our mind of a clear night of stars in the sky. The speaker uses stars as a symbol in this stanza. What the symbol represents, however, is different during different lines in the stanza. In the first line, the narrator uses personification. The narrator gives night the ability to frown, as if the night could be displeased with something. This contributes to the theme of the entire poem because it represents that mystery that is being discussed throughout the poem. Even though the night is clear, it is frowning. This makes the night mysterious, since a clear night usually means beautiful stars in the sky, while here, the night is frowning at a time where it should be beautiful. In these lines, the stars and the night are used as a symbol of hopelessness. Since the night is frowning and the stars are not looking down on the souls of the dead, they do not have hope. However, the stars do shine light onto mortals and give them hope. The stars look down from their high thrones in heaven and give hope to mortals and people that are living. The next few lines contrast this fact, however, and say that to the dead the light is a burning and a fever, and does not or cannot give hope to the dead. This stanza is a strong point of antithesis between whether the stars give hope or hopelessness. The stars give hope to people that are alive because these people have not reached the afterlife and can better themselves. However, the stars give no hope to the dead since they have already reached the end of their life. The stars almost mock the dead because they try to give hope to the dead where none can be given. This stanza is very important to the theme of the entire poem because it first introduces the hopelessness of death and the hopefulness of life. When there is antithesis, there is also mystery because the contrast of ideas creates a sense of not knowing. The stars having two different meanings and symbolizing two different things are overall mysterious because they suggest differing points of view. The narrator makes the stars mysterious by showing contrast in what they represent: hope versus hopefulness.
In the third stanza, the narrator talks about how your thoughts will never leave you, when stating, "Thoughts thou shalt not banish." Your past life as a living, breathing human being will follow you into your afterlife, and there is no hope to fix your wrongs. A main message behind the third stanza is that your life decides your death or your past decides your future. Now our thoughts thou shalt not banish. If you choose to live a miserable life, that will carry on with you into your next life. But if you choose to make your life incredible, that could repeat in the afterlife. The narrator is suggesting that spirits are tormented by their past, as a burdening and a fever which would cling to thee forever. Here, the narrator is displaying everything from your past and how it is engraved in you and it burns within you. You can never let go of your past, like your past defines who you are, because it will follow you around like a name tag defining who you are. From the spirits they shall pass no more like dewdrops from the grass. The dewdrops from the grass that occur every morning is a metaphor for a reoccurring event, like how the spirits of the dead relive their past life every day. From thy spirits they shall pass no more like dewdrops from the grass. The speaker is always contemplating death, and the contemplation is quite mysterious. Now our thoughts thou shalt not banish, now our visions never to vanish. This ties back to the Gothic style of writing and it poses the question of why do the thoughts of the memories of the spirits of the dead carry on with them in their afterlife. The whole third stanza depicts the sadness of reliving the painful parts of one's past life and how there is no hope to change your past.
The fourth stanza of the poem is one of the stanzas that has a large basis of literary elements and is one of the more meaningful sections of the poem. In a sense, the fourth stanza focuses on the mystery of death and how only spirits of the dead can understand it. The lingering and eternal mist is used to show how once a person dies, their memories stay with them even in the afterlife. For example, in the poem it says, "And the mist upon the hill, shadowy, shadowy, yet unbroken, is a symbol and a token, how it hangs upon the trees, a mystery of mysteries." Words such as unbroken symbolize how the mist is thick and stays with the person throughout life and death. This unbroken mist represents the memories of the spirits that have stayed with them into the afterlife, which also ties back to how no mere mortal could experience the feeling of having all their past memories linger around them. Once again, tying back to how death is a mystery and only the spirits of the dead can comprehend it, this is the message that Poe is trying to emphasize, not only in the stanza, but the entire poem. The author uses repetition to emphasize the importance of the shadowy, thick mist. In the poem, it states, "shadowy, shadowy, yet unbroken," to show how the type of mist is important. The repetition of the word shadowy means that the mist is filled with shadows, which represents the past memories of all the spirits of the dead, which only they can see. By incorporating this use of repetition, Poe is able to further influence the reader that death is a mystery to the living. The mystery of death to the living is really just another example of how the author stresses the significance of how only the dead can fully understand death itself.
The entire poem discusses the main idea that death is a mystery. What happens after death is unknown to all that are not already dead. The living have hope but cannot know to better themselves without communicating with the dead, which cannot be done. The dead cannot let go of their past life, since it clings to them forever. The poem is almost a warning to the living to better themselves before they die and their past catches up to them. This poem clearly has more Gothic elements than romantic elements. The poem discusses the torment of memories of life after death. It talks about the consequences of living a life that is not good enough to go to heaven when the speaker says, "The spirits of death who stood in life before thee are again in death around thee." Death, hopelessness, and mystery being three main aspects of this poem make it a poem with more Gothic elements.